I pushed open the door to our apartment, hoping to surprise Sophia and kick off an amazing weekend together. We'd been married 8 years, but it still felt like our honeymoon phase most days. Sure, we both worked our asses off. I was always at the hospital doing 20-hour surgery shifts, while Sophia was a total corporate badass climbing the ranks. But whenever we had a couple days off, we lived it up like a couple of kids skipping school. This was supposed to be one of those weekends. I cleared my schedule to take Sophia on a little trip. Maybe a cabin upstate or even a quick flight down to Miami. She'd been burning it at both ends trying to lock down this huge new account for her firm. I figured a couple days away from the hustle was just what she needed to relax before the parties really got started. Only when I walked in, Sophia was already getting relaxed on the living room couch, with her coworker Jake's head between her legs. Fuck me. In that moment, it was like I could see our entire goddamn marriage flash before my eyes in shattered pieces on the floor. 8 years, multiple homes, and a couple discussing kids all shattered. My sweet Sophia, the love of my life, was a filthy cheater. All I could do was stare until they noticed me. Then I turned and walked right the hell back out. I should have known something was up when Sophia's car was already in the parking garage that afternoon. Said she was working late at the office again. Yeah, clearly fucking working on getting dicked down by Jake behind my back. I came bursting through the door, bouquet of roses in hand like a dumbass romantic thinking I'd sweep my wife off her feet. Instead, I swept her right off the couch cushions. She was riding cowgirl on Jake's lap. There they were, my wife's big fake titties bouncing in my face, while her coworker grunted like a stuck pig underneath her. I didn't say a goddamn word. Just locked eyes with Sophia as the color drained from her face. She'd been caught, hook, line, and sinker. Jake fumbled around trying to cover up while babbling some half-ass excuse, but I wasn't hearing it. All that registered was the betrayal washing over me in sickening waves. 8 years I thought we had something special, and this is the respect I get. I turned and walked out, tossing the roses in the trash on my way. Crushed the same way Sophia just crushed my heart into oblivion. I couldn't even look at Sophia and that prick Jake after witnessing their filthy act. My fists were clenched so tight, I thought my fingernails might pierce my palms. I wanted to fucking explode, deck Jake square in his smug face and grab Sophia by her hair. But I knew that ginned-up rage would only lead to me catching an assault charge. Instead, I channeled that anger into giving them the most venom-soaked tongue-lashing of their pathetic lives. Called Sophia every nasty name in the book: whore, slut, trailer park trash. Told Jake he had the tiniest pecker I'd ever seen on a grown man, and that's why he needed to get his rocks off screwing taken wives. The fear and shame on both their faces almost made me smile. Once I ran out of creative insults, I turned to Sophia with the coldest stare I could muster and said, "We're done. Don't bother coming home tonight because I'm changing the fucking locks. And if you think escaping to Jake's arms gets you off that easy, you're dead wrong, bitch. I've got a world of hurt waiting for you." With it, I stormed right the hell out, letting the door slam behind me. Sophia would soon learn the huge mistake she made crossing me. After calming down a bit from that nuclear meltdown, I realized yelling and empty threats weren't gonna cut it. Sophia betrayed me in the worst way, and I needed to hit back where it really hurt if I wanted true payback. I hired this badass private eye to dig up every nasty detail about her sordid affair with that Dutch-bag Jake. The PI didn't disappoint. Dude uncovered a year's worth of evidence showing Sophia's deceit ran way deeper than just getting railed by her coworker on the side. Turned out the two lovebirds were shacking up at fancy hotels all over the city, billing it as business trips, and sticking me with the tab from our joint accounts. But it got even slimmier. The PI found financial records proving Sophia had been funneling cash to some offshore account, no doubt to fund her tawdry trysts behind my back. With that concrete proof cementing what a shameless, disloyal snake my lying wife had become, I met with my bulldog of a divorce attorney. That vicious old bastard practically licked his chops after seeing the evidence, telling me I had a nuclear bomb to detonate right on Sophia's head. He outlined how I could nail her for adultery, financial misconduct, and misuse of corporate resources, ensuring she got knocked down a huge couple pegs professionally and personally. I started relishing the epic downfall I had in store for that disloyal whore. After getting my ducks in a row with that cold-blooded divorce lawyer, I knew I needed to play it cool around Sophia for a while longer. I couldn't let that cheating bitch get even a whiff that I was onto her shady bullshit and plotting an epic revenge. So I put on my best poker face and pretended like everything was hunky-dory at home. Sure, it made me fucking sick having to act all lovey-dovey with Sophia after discovering her lurid betrayal. Holding her in my arms or giving her a peck on the cheek made my skin crawl thinking about whose bodily fluids she'd been swapping. But I knew letting her see any hint I was onto the affair would just send her scurrying for cover or running into Jake's arms. Better to keep that disloyal skink thinking I was still her clueless, faithful hubby. I kept up that farcical facade for weeks, letting Sophia buy into the idea that her sordid secret was still safe. Played the role of dutiful, overworked doctor coming home to his doting wife each night without a single suspicious look. All while I steadily compiled more and more evidence of her cheating whoredom behind the scenes. Sophia's ego and sense of superiority left her too smug to suspect I knew the disgusting truth. Her downfall was coming soon enough. While I had Sophia fooled and complacent at home, I knew I needed to start setting the stage for her epic downfall at work too. That's where I really wanted to twist the knife and make her pay for her shameless betrayal. Luckily, I had an old buddy from college who worked tech consulting. Guy was basically a genius hacker. I laid it all out for him, how Sophia had been using company resources and funds to carry on her raunchy affair with this Dutchbag coworker. Told him I needed a way to get discreet access to her work computer and email to gather ammo for the divorce. My tech pal just laughed, saying he could get me seamless backdoor access to the entire corporate network in a couple hours, no problem. Sure enough, a day later I had the keys to Sophia's whole digital kingdom. I started subtly screwing with little things at first, deleting important emails, altering client reports and spreadsheets with mistakes. Just tiny cuts to thoroughly undermine her credibility and relationships with her corporate pals. Each successful hack made me smile wider, knowing I was ruining her step by step, just like she'd ruined our marriage vows. The bitch was gonna get exactly what she deserved. While the sabotage of Sophia's work life was going perfectly, I also needed one final grand gesture to really drive the knife into that cheating whore's heart. I decided to plan us an extravagant birthday getaway for her. Really go all out on a fancy celebration to lull her into a false sense of security. Found this ultra-exclusive resort down in the Caribbean that was perfect. Romantic as hell, but also super isolated on a private island. Just what I needed. Spared no expense booking the trip, purposely picked all the high-end luxury packages to make Sophia think I was still her loving, devoted hubby. Dropped thousands on the fanciest private beachfront villa, couples massages, candlelit dinners on the beach, the whole 9 yards. Sophia was definitely surprised, but absolutely ate up the attention. Her ego too inflated to realize it was the calm before an apocalyptic storm. The whole over-the-top weekend was basically an elaborate con to get her somewhere remote where I could truly unleash my grand revenge. Once we got to that island resort, I had Sophia's disloyal ass totally cut off from the outside world with no easy escape. She honestly thought we were there to rekindle our romance and patch up the marriage. Little did she know, I had something far darker and more soul-crushing in store. I let Sophia enjoy the first couple days of that pristine Caribbean paradise, soaking up the sun and sipping fruity cocktails without a care in the world. played along with her little fantasies that this lavish getaway was gonna magically fix the deep cracks in our marriage. She was so blissfully unaware of the reckoning that was coming. Finally, on the third night after an over-the-top candlelit dinner on the beach, I calmly laid out the whole sordid truth as Sophia's face slowly drained of color. Told her I knew every nasty, knockdown, drag-out detail about her year-long affair with that schmuck Jake from work. Revealed I had evidence of all their upscale hotel fuckfests, copies of the financial transactions routing money to her slush fund, the whole 9 yards. The fear and horror in her eyes as the reality sank in, realizing her pathetic web of lies and deceit had unraveled, almost made that exorbitant trip worthwhile. As the icing on the cake, I informed the stupid bitch that after this week, her ass was stuck on that island with no return ticket, no cash, and no way to contact Jake or anyone else for rescue. Her disloyal, cheating ways had finally caught up to her in a way she never could have imagined. Felt absolutely electrifying to watch her world crumble before my eyes. I didn't even wait until unpacking from that glorious Caribbean revenge trip before putting the next phase into motion. The second my feet hit U.S. soil, I had my shark of a divorce lawyer file the papers and initiate the vigilant demolition of Sophia's whole torn-down life. We led the charge by airing out every last salacious detail of her adulterous monkey branching with that Dutchbag coworker Jake. Had hotel receipts, photos, voicemails, the full haunting paper trail of her repulsive indiscretions for the world to scrutinize. But we also made sure to bury her on the financial crimes too, embezzling funds into offshore accounts, misappropriating company resources, you name it. The rock-solid evidence spoke for itself. Sophia's sleazy conduct and total disregard for professional ethics ensured she got launched into a tailspin of public disgrace. All her tonier country club pals suddenly wanted nothing to do with the scandalous homewrecker. Her corporate employers had no choice but to terminally sever ties with such a blatant liability, and the divorce judge clearly looked down on her moral depravity when awarding me the lion's share of assets. Watching her life utterly implode was an ultra-cathartic front-row seat to unmitigated karmic reckoning. With the divorce proceedings officially kicked off, I made sure to stretch out that legal circus sideshow for as long as humanly possible. Paid my bulldog litigator buddy premium rates to contest every last filing, make endless appeals, and throw up every possible roadblock imaginable. Knew it would rack up Sophia's bills and prolong her agonizing humiliation. While she spun her wheels getting constantly reamed in court, I globetrotted around living my absolute best life off the modest fortune I'd swindled away from our marriage. Spent months island hopping in the Mediterranean, getting massages on the beaches of Santorini, and touring vineyards in Tuscany without a care in the world. Boned my way through a harem of hot European side pieces to get that disloyal aftertaste of Sophia out of my mouth for good. Each morning waking up in a Novi posh villa or 5-star resort without that treacherous demon wife weighing me down made me smile wider. Could finally breathe easy knowing I'd precisely executed the epic revenge her betrayal deserved. Burnt her whole luxurious privileged existence to the ground in one masterfully calculated series of demolitions. Watching her get ruthlessly finessed was a gourmet meal I slowly savored over many courses. That protracted divorce battle raged on for what felt like an eternity, but the longer it stretched, the deeper Sophia's life unraveled into an apocalyptic shitshow. By the time the dust finally settled, she had absolutely nothing left. Professionally, she was radioactive toxic waste after those embezzlement and misuse of corporate resources charges. Nobody reputable would go within a mile of hiring the scandalous homewrecker. Her former white-collar corporate prick buddies all turned their backs once the Mistress News went primetime. Sophia's ego and sense of superiority shattered into a million insoluble pieces. Financially, she got appropriately reamed too after the judge saw the DNA evidence of her depraved cheating depravity. I took her for nearly every liquid scent in the divorce settlement, leaving Sophia to downward spiral into flat broke territory. Tough shit for the disloyal whore after she so brazenly misallocated marital assets to fund her hotel room spa days with Jake. The smoking crater I left of her former life was deeply, deliciously satisfying karma. By the time that shit show divorce finally ended, Sophia was straight up destitute on every possible level. Her professional life, completely incinerated after the truth about her sleazeball cheating and corporate misconduct got blasted into the public spotlight. No respectable company would go near that radioactive baggage, not when the sordid evidence study painted her as such an untrustworthy, unethical train wreck. Money-wise, she got appropriately hosed too. That judge took one look at the stacks of proof I collected exposing her adulterous bottom-feeding ways and decided to hand me the keys to the whole estate on a platter. Sophia's decade of top-tier income went poof in a blink, cause she only had her own reckless immorality to blame. Suddenly her future of country club tennis and Hamptons vacays transformed into living flat broke in a one-bedroom shoebox. Tough shit. Maybe emanating home-wrecking vibes wasn't such a bright wealth management strategy after all. Best part? I ultimately recovered from that disastrous marriage quagmire with my pride and self-respect totally intact, while Sophia's life deteriorated into an isolating sinkhole of squalor and destitution. I got free rein to rebound and reinvent my entire existence from the ashes. She lost everything, her status, her wealth, her partner, in one fit of unfaithful impulsiveness. All I lost in the end was a cancerous leech of a wife. I undoubtedly landed on the winning side of that scorching reality check. With that wretched she-devil Sophia utterly exorcised from my life, I could finally breathe again without constantly inhaling toxic fumes of distrust and resentment. Ripping off that unholy betrayal anchor felt like getting liberated from soul-crushing bondage. No longer would I be psychologically waterboarded by memories of her naked, sweat-soaked trysts with that cheap-suited Dachshund Jake. I was a free man once more. And hell yeah, I majorly embraced the prohibited fruit of unapologetic singlehood after enduring that disastrous marriage purgatory. Suddenly bright woman in her 20s with perky tits and a rocking body viewed me as a prime catch instead fifth, some poor bastard resigning himself to the bedroom casket. Dated and plowed my way through more strange than a Tijuana donkey show after getting that new divorced bachelor scent. With no disloyal balsam to hold me hostage, I traveled more than a retired French expat making the European hostel circuit. Spent months baked on endless Aperol spritzes while island hopping the Amalfi Coast. Rented a sick campervan to eat six-stroke tacos and blaze ignorance along. Live like the king of the world out after brutal years spent shackled in a soul-killing sham of false vows and empty promises. The delicious revenge cartwheels alone cold entitled processes microprocessor.